Lancelot Tartarus. What are you doing here?
Your mother left this world upon your birth, and your father followed her only a few months before the war broke out. Your blood begins and ends with you, Catiua. You are alone, truly.
What are you talking about? I have a brother. Surely you've not forgotten Denham.
I gather you realize the Abuna was not your father. Yet you assumed that your brother shared your orphan lineage. You assumed wrongly.
Okay, folks, let's go ahead and have a bit of a discussion today. So, when it comes to the story of this game, there's kind of been a thing for a while, basically like a kind of an idea thrown about here and there of what exactly would happen if you played as the actual main character of this game. So for those that, have gone through the thing multiple times, maybe gone through all the different routes and whatever else, you probably have picked up on the fact that Denham is not actually the main character of this story. They're the one, leading the fights and whatever else, but for all intents and purposes, the actual main character is, and always was, Catiua. Basically, they're the one that ends up being there at the very start. They're the one that ends up kicking off a lot of the story's events. And in a lot of cases, they end up being the one that ends up winning it in the end. And that's why, essentially, most of the bad endings of the game involve her not being there. So, there's been a thought for a while of, like, what exactly would happen if there was a B route? What if there was a mod or a DLC or something where you essentially just played as Catiua instead of Denham? What would that end up looking like, and what would the implications be? Because, it looks like, and I really hope this is true, but it looks like there's a non-zero chance that, courtesy of the more available nature of Reborn, it looks like it may be possible for that to be a thing. Hopefully. I really hope so. If not, maybe there's a possibility of peer pressuring it into existence. But either way, let's go ahead and talk about the implications. So, first of all, this actually does not seem like it would be as difficult as many other, kind of alternate reality mods that have been discussed in the past. Namely because a lot of the story, they're already together, and for all intents and purposes, attempting to do the same things. So, basically, right over here, the real only difference would be who's in charge. So, basically, all of Chapter 1 or 2 would just be a difference of who's in charge. Now, the one scene that would probably require some different stuff here, and maybe one different line, would be right here at the very end of Chapter 1, over in Balmusa, and it would just be as simple as Catiua making that choice instead of Denham. Now, before you say it, yes, true, historically speaking, there was always quite a bit of misogyny going on. However, that's never really been the case in this particular universe. Remember, your kind of commander for the very first chapter is a woman after all. Anyway, this isn't a thing. Like, generally speaking, gender discrimination is not really a thing in this series, never really has been. Which is kind of one of the reasons that it's so approachable from so many angles, but at any rate, so as far as that goes, yeah, there's absolutely no reason why she wouldn't be in charge of that at that point. Everyone kind of sees her as the brain of the operation anyway. Like, between the main trio, generally speaking, like, Vice is kind of the the out-of-control guy nobody quite trusts. They're the second in command. Cash was sort of the heart of the team, so to speak, though realistically they're kind of the brain of it as well in a lot of cases. And Denham is supposed to be the kind of rational commander sort of the group. However, that being said, technically speaking, again, there's really no reason why she couldn't be the one outside making that choice. So then we get into part 2 here. And again, really, this would, most of this stuff seems like it would more or less play out in the same way. Most of the conversations could likely play out in the same way, and, I mean, especially stuff like, for example, Zapan being a friggin' weirdo, would certainly carry a bit more weight if she was the main character, but, again, there's not really much that would necessarily have to change here. However, we would have to immediately write off Sistina as a survivable character, because right after Kadriga, she's the one that basically says, okay, screw it, we gotta get on with our mission, we're not gonna bother doing any side quests. So, yeah. In other words, right over here, where Fulkert wants to go save his girlfriend, yeah, well, meet your new most eligible bachelor, because she's getting murdered by pirates. Anyway, yeah, so you just basically get your free boat, and then you carry on from there. So yeah, her whole thing is just, hey, it's all about us. We gotta bail. Forget these other guys. Basically, everything Bokram Liberation Front related, she wants no part of. Like, it's weird because she does basically state that they see them as part of the same group, but she always refuses to help them at every opportunity. So yes, that would immediately be one less plotline to potentially have to worry about. Anyway. So, moving on here, if we go down to the other route, really not much has to change here whatsoever. They just end up going back to Almorica. They end up fighting a pretty much straightforward fight. Again, the main difference would just be who Ronway's addressing in this particular case. Honestly, in some cases, I'm pretty sure somebody could just stitch together a scene where they're more or less saying that Catiua's kind of pulling Denham's strings. More so than anything, it seems like more of a thing that she would do. Again, remember one of the very first scenes in the game, they have Vice confronting her back at the house, basically saying, you know, how could a priest be, or well, I guess technically she's still a priest. How could a priest be going and using people like the Zenobians? And basically her answer is just, when I see a tool, I use it. So, yeah, all things considered, it's absolutely a non-zero chance that she would essentially just be kind of commanding stuff at that point. I didn't actually mean to start that cutscene, but let's go ahead and move on here. Alright, next up, the route split. Straight up here, I don't think that there would be a neutral route. I mean, she seems pretty much done with the Wallister fairly early on, and she's pretty ready to bail on them at the earliest opportunity, so I don't see that there's any possible chance that she's even making that choice. So realistically, that takes us down to Law and Chaos. And even in that particular case, I would say it pretty much just boils down to Chaos in this particular case, simply because, well, I mean, I guess technically she does do quite a few deplorable things as far as stuff goes on, but generally speaking, like, she doesn't seem the sort to follow orders. Even though they list her alignment as lawful, she definitely seems chaotic. So would definitely say, of all of them, it probably would just entirely boil down to the Chaos route. No questions asked. Again, as far as the route split in Chapter 2, it just doesn't seem like she would ever follow anything that Leonard has to say, so it basically just entirely boils down to the Chaos route. Okay, so that basically brings us down to there was only one. So in this particular case, pretty much the only split that would actually have to happen is partway through here, where she essentially ends up leaving off on her little side quest to go say hello to Tardy. So this right here is actually the only real bubble where she wouldn't be available. It's right after these fights right over here, where like right after what's it, friggin' Castle Place is taken. So pretty much so it's right here. So right after Karitnai gets taken, she ends up leaving. So this would functionally mean that these fights right here are more or less taken out, and we could just skip immediately to here. So more or less during this whole bit, Denham's going off and taking the other end of the island. She's already at Karitnai, so it would probably just be replaced with a couple quick fights on her way to Goliath, probably with some bodyguards or something. Again, given her whole situation as the potential leader at that point, it's absolutely not out of the question that we'd essentially just see Denham leading a completely different team to go take on the west of the island, while she herself takes the normal team, let's say maybe takes on some of the earlier fights there, maybe could potentially reuse something like the Dagon fight there to go maybe go through Goliath, or not Goliath, but through just basically through the port towns. Like, she more or less would just be tearing a warpath, maybe fight some necromancers. Who knows, maybe she just has a clear journey all the way over there. It seems, actually, you know what? No, you know what would be perfect right here? I know that somewhere in the code they did mention that they were actually working on keeping the original, originally there was a plan from the devs to keep the original random battles. What if you just had to basically fight through the random battle versions of everyone, like you go Reason Way for some reason, just kind of for the hell of it, just because that one was really fun, and then you circle around, maybe do part of Farampa, just again, just kind of for the hell of it, just pick some really asinine route. through the entire island. Just take some weird route, and then just wind up at Tynemouth Hill right before you wind up with the princess cutscene. How awesome would that be, right? Like, it would just be a nice little callback right there. So anyway, from there, I mean, really not much would have to change past this point either. Rhyme just makes... I mean, Rhyme can kind of happen on its own. Really, at this point, it just makes sense that we would just have a little bit of a time skip, and then we would just wind up having those same Dark Knight cutscenes. Probably have the Vice's execution, just to kind of rub salt in the wound there. Now, I will say a quick side note on Vice. It feels like on this particular route, if somebody wanted to get really ambitious with it, it feels like Vice should be serving Cashua's role, Cashua should be serving Denham's role, and Denham should be serving Vice's role, except a bit less bloodthirsty. As I was saying earlier today, maybe a bit less, I'm a rip out your heart and eat that thing, and more, hey, I'm sorry, orders are orders, it's time to kill some bitches. But as far as all this goes, I mean, it would kind of require rewriting the whole story, so I guess technically speaking, we'll just go for the lower ambition route here and just assume that yes, he was a kind of sort of friend that was helpful at one point, but just sort of became a real douche once the war started. So anyway, by Vice. If you didn't know, by the way, they hint at this cutscene right at the end of Chaos 3 there, where they basically say, hey, so I only heard about the execution a couple days later, so she might have heard about it a little bit sooner. Maybe she might even hear about it and attempt to intervene, if that was the case. Go ahead and watch it real quick.
Let me go. Please, don't kill me.
Interesting note, by the way, when they were giving the notes for the voice actor for Canopus, apparently this was the one they started with. They're like, here we go, do this.
Great Father Philaha, forgive the sins of this, your child.
Please, no. Call Brenton. He'll tell you.
How is he going to call him? He doesn't have a cell phone.
He ordered no more. Please, I don't want to die. Denham! Denham!
Anyway, so as far as all that goes, yeah, he generally just kind of has a bad day. So moving right along here, now we go on to this route. So you basically have the same old torture scene. She's already here at this point, so I mean, realistically, maybe if we wanted to throw a few fights in the middle there, maybe it would be like her team versus maybe some Bakram that misunderstand her intent to defect or something. Realistically, actually, what would be a really cool scene? If we were to do... I say we as if I have any participation in this, but if they were to get particularly ambitious with it, it actually would be kind of cool to have a fight where, like, let's say there's some random, like, Wallister assassins or something like that, and you get to be on Tardy's team for a little bit, like maybe him and like Ozma or something, or guests or some such. Maybe just fight a few randos, just kind of to have them on your team. Maybe get access to Dark Priest early. And then from there, basically would just skip directly, skip all of this kind of stuff. You can probably just still have the cutscenes thrown in, but realistically could just, skip all of this straight over to here, where we have the Bernicia fight. So in this one, it actually would be kind of cool to... I wonder if it's actually possible to implement, like, supposed to lose fights, like maybe have an alternate route where you actually win at this point, because it would be interesting to see the route split here, where you see like her and her team show up to intervene on, let's say, Barbas's behalf, or maybe just show up at the Great Hall, because at that point, then you could actually have a legitimate like takeover ending, but then suddenly it's like her versus the defecting Dark Knights. So this is probably where you could have a legitimate, story split and that kind of thing. So personally, I would say, yeah. Barbas ends up losing. You end up just having the Bernicia fight at this point, and then you just show up with whatever team you had, along possibly replacing some of Tardy's team, and then just show up like a min-maxed Denham team, where instead of something like instead of these scenes right here, you basically just have, I'm sure Denim has like some kind of dramatic death lines or something like that. Actually, he already has one. It's already the game over line. So basically from there, like let's say they win, but they have to escape anyway. So we wind up with a situation where she ends up having that scene, but with Denim removed. Like let's say replace Denim with I don't know, maybe one of the sisters or something on the seat there. But just basically all of Denim's people end up joining her instead. At which point that scene would more or less be able to take over at that point, right? At least in theory, anyway. At which point, let's see. I mean, that would basically leave... I mean, it would more or less result in the same thing with just her leading. Maybe instead of dying, he just ends up joining as, as a guest. Or not even as a guest, or as a permanent unit. Just kind of reverse their roles entirely. Maybe have a similar thing where if she kills him, Tardy does that whole line of, like, you've doomed the islands or something like that. I don't know. That seems like it probably would be a bit too much. Either way, like let's say you either save or kill off Denim at this point, but either way, she ends up being in charge. I mean, she's functionally in charge at this point anyway. Denim's just kind of the head of the army, so to speak, so there's really no reason why she can't be that instead. And then it kind of feels like everything at the rest of this is more or less the same. Trying to think, like she probably would have some different lines when it came to meeting up with Barbas and Mardem and probably any of the Hanging Gardens bits, but it feels like for most of this it would be more or less the same. As far as the bit with Morn here, though, I wonder if there's any way to cobble together a scene where he just kind of gives up, or maybe you know what, actually it might be interesting to have the same fight, have the same lines, but it just kind of comes from the perspective of he's trying to get Denim to switch sides again. I mean, I guess it would recontextualize that a little bit. Probably could just have the same fight, just with some minor differences thrown in here and there. Maybe, I don't know, maybe some of Catiua's sassier lines from the Law Route. Somehow find a way to work in the whole, like, blood is made of ice line at some point. Or just the whole fire and ice conversation that she has with, what's-his-face, the ninja guy, the recruiter guy. I can't remember the name of him, but he's Denim, or not Denim, but Vice's like second in command or whatever else. Anyway, let's see. Because yeah, as far as chasing lines and Foot of the Gardens and whatever, I'm pretty sure Catiua must have some lines that would work perfectly for that one. The rest of these are pretty self-explanatory. Probably just leave Denim's same lines in as a guest unit, but potentially for like scripted storylines. Again, I'm sure Catiua's got some lines in there. I'm sure somebody's kind of decompiled that stuff at this point. But yeah, personally, I think it could really work. There's enough there. It's enough of a small change. She's already the main character. Honestly, this is something that I was really hoping that when Reborn came out that they would just announce it as a DLC or something. But hey, if modders want to do it, I'm pretty sure the material's there to make it happen. So just a bit of a thought. So let me make sure I don't have the name wrong here. But yeah, if Tristank is actually working on it, then cool. Awesome. Would love to see that happen. Again, would love to see the modding community make this a reality. It's one of those really kind of obvious kind of things that it feels like it should have been there from the very beginning. Honestly, it's one of those things that I was always kind of wondering if the Chronicle Valeria mod ended up doing, because again, they even saved Leonor in that one. Which, by the way, one quick note, because I see it come up all the time as far as why exactly Leonor can't survive even if they remake the game or whatever else. Basically, the deal is, at the end of Chapter 3, someone... the entirety of Chapter 4 is, basically the United Island versus what's left of Lotus. So, pretty much regardless of who ends up dying, somebody has to kind of be the figurehead for the whole thing. Because up to that point, it's always been like, Leonor has his loyalists, Denim has his loyalists, but they can't get along. And basically, unless one of them dies, and they mention this on every route, which is why I'm a little bit confused why it comes up all the time, one of them, or both of them, have to be dead in order for all of their followers to follow somebody else. Which is why actually it might be interesting. What if they did get all killed off at that point? Yeah, what if... I wonder if for this mod, like, what happens if we have a situation where Lanar beats Denim? Like, we have the Chaos route, we have the 1v1 duel, right? We have the duel over here. Or actually, no, it wasn't here. It was... Where was it? Here? No, it was somewhere over here. Where the hell was that duel? Somewhere there is a dang duel. Here we go. And so you have the Denim and Lanar duel, right? So how about this? Lanar wins that, right? And then you basically have Catiua fighting Lanar and then beating him, and then it's just like a whole like rule of murder type situation where she ends up taking over that way. Honestly, that'd be kind of cool. And then you follow up that duel immediately with the princess cutscene of just like, oh man, that was a shit show. And then Tardy shows up like, hey, so did you know your royalty? She's like, oh, I knew I was awesome. Okay, great. Let's go lead this island. I don't know. Anyway, would love to see, 1,000,001 thoughts. My hope of this whole video was just to kind of throw my 2 cents in the ring here and hopefully get some feedback from the community here. Maybe, sprinkle on some ideas for the mod authors to kind of pick and choose and make this thing happen. Again, I hope it ends up being a reality. As far as I can tell, the tools are all coming together to make it a thing, so... Again, maybe less than peer pressuring them into making it, maybe throw some ideas out there that you'd like to see. Maybe we can see it happen. All right, y'all take care. I'll see you then.